Good evening and a very warm welcome to you. And thank you for joining us for another hour of Women Talking Wellness. Today, we're back with another incredible guest who's ready and willing to share her story and her insights into how to not just survive this life, but to truly learn how to thrive in it. Now, I'm going to speak to the replay people first. You are so welcome here. Just because you didn't make it live doesn't mean you are any less valuable to us. And I want to invite you to type the word thrive into the comments tonight, just so that I know who's tuned in. And I also want to know that you've been paying attention to. My guest tonight is the owner of Heat Fitness right here in Scotland, a space where yoga and exercise run alongside each other. And although this is where she's based, her work is actually far wider reaching than that. And we'll be talking a little bit about that later in today's conversation. Now, I chose to call tonight's chat frenetic to fabulous because, well, I kind of think it describes my guest's journey perfectly, although I think she was probably pretty fabulous even before she reached this point. She now dedicates her time to helping others to feel, look, and move better in their own skin. And she is the quintessential role model for anyone approaching 50 and even beyond. And yes, I did say quintessential. I want you to give a very warm live stream welcome to the fabulous Juliet Cassidy. Welcome, Juliet.
Hi, Lorna. Thank you. Thank you for having me here
It
today.
is
Thank you.
an absolute pleasure. I'm just overjoyed that you are spending time with me tonight because for anybody who's watching, you might not know the relationship between Jules and I, but Jules gave me a space to hang some yoga swings when we were still able to, like have human contact. I found a little yoga home in Jules and her husband Jack's beautiful studio space over in Stirling. And one of the things that I often looked forward to on my Wednesday evenings was not just coming to teach my classes, but I always looked forward to the few minutes of conversation that I got with this lady because, even though we were always just passing each other in the corridors, for some reason we always seemed to manage to talk about really cool stuff, even if it was just for a few minutes. So I always looked forward to, just that couple of minutes of conversation with you. So to have you for a whole hour is actually feeling pretty precious this evening.
Oh,
So
well, you've had me yet for a whole
yes, hopefully you're going to stay for the hour.
yes.
Don't change your mind. I said a few minutes ago that we're talking about kind of frenetic to fabulous, and I think a great place to start with this is for people to know a little bit more about your story and, well, just kind of how you got to where you are and the lifestyle that you're living just now. So over to you.
Okay. Well, right now, obviously, we are in lockdown in Stirling in Scotland. So we kind of went into not as restrictive as March, but we went into a lockdown on Friday. So, but since we've been in lockdown, we're continuing our business mostly online. We've also been doing one-on-one training sessions, personal training. But we're doing fitness online. We're doing yoga online. We're doing breath work online. We're doing outdoor classes now as well, and we're working with clients that used to come to our hot yoga and TRX studio, and new clients that we've met, and old friends from around the world. So, and even like my dad who's in South Africa has been doing my TRX classes, and so it's been great in so many ways because it's just different, and we've had to diversify and adapt. And we're also working with some new corporate clients, helping their employees as well. So yeah, it's different. But anyway, Jack and I set up Heat Fitness in Stirling 5 years ago in December, and it was a return to Scotland from 10 years in Australia, where we ran a fitness business. And we loved hot yoga. We qualified as instructors, and we decided to set up our own hot yoga studio. I think mostly so we could actually go to the studio because it was
Yeah.
freezing. We arrived back here in December, and Jack is Scottish. I lived in Glasgow myself for 10 years. So we're used to the cold, but it was a bit of a shock. So we were like, we need a hot yoga studio that we can go to. But yeah, we got into hot yoga in Australia where we ran our fitness business, and it was just another kind of like tool for us to use to create longevity for the sports we were doing at the time, but also just to feel better. It was a bit of a detox. It kind of cleaned up your act a little bit. You don't go into a hot room and start moving if you're a bit toxic. So
Right.
there were many benefits to it. But I feel like every decade or even every 5 years, we've added something to our little toolbox of wellness.
Mm.
So, it's kind of like evolved this whole wellness journey, and every year something else comes up. And it's just staying alert to the opportunities and looking at what other people are doing and going, oh, that looks amazing. I'll try that. But my life hasn't always been like that. My life now is looking at wellness, fitness, in all aspects,
Yeah.
not just physical. Because that when I first got into fitness, it was all physical,
Yeah.
not much of a mind-body connection, I would say. But yeah, I started in sport. You certainly there is a mental side as well. Some of the more challenging things I've done, but yeah, now I'm much more aware of the whole aspect. It's mental, physical, even spiritual.
Yeah.
So yeah, very different to when I first started in fitness, which was mm, about 20 years ago when I got my exercise to music um,
Me too.
qualification.
Were
And
you were
my
you
life
in your thong lycra leotard dancing to
Yeah, I
that was
knew
that
it
was
was a means to an end. The minute I got my qualification, I knew straight away I was never going to be an exercise music teacher ever because I literally couldn't hear the beat. I was like, what? Every four? And I was like, it took me forever. And when I got it, it was like a light bulb. I was like, this is harder than a degree. This is harder than anything I've ever done. And I was like, wow. But I knew that I wanted to be in fitness.
right.
I don't know why, I've always loved being outdoors. I've always loved fitness, and I've kind of played with it my whole life. And I've at times been serious about it. But I did the fitness course. I had a thriving business in Glasgow. I never knew I was going to do it full time. Um,
So
but yeah,
sorry, you had the
my
PR business when you did the exercise to music training.
Yes. So
Ah, okay.
I had a PR business in Glasgow for 5 years. Previous to that, I'd worked for a PR company in Glasgow. And previous to that, I actually started my working career at Volkswagen Audi Motorsport. And I was with them for 7 years working with the motorsport team. And that's where the cigarellos came in because we were sponsored by Rothmans. So in those
Wow.
days, Rothmans sponsored Formula One. They sponsored Audi Quattro. They sponsored our rally vehicles. So the Rothmans rep would arrive at my desk and he would just plonk down, 50 cartons of fags and have a beautiful ceramic ashtray in those days and we'd share a cigarette. So, it was very much that culture. I mean, I used to travel with a team and you'd go into the pits and the mechanics and engineers would be bending over the engines with a fag hanging out their mouth and gas everywhere. And it was completely the norm. And of course, in that industry as well, drinking was also a huge part of it. The motorsport drivers of today, well, they are athletes. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying they weren't when I was in motorsport, but certainly partying was part of it. And drinking, partying, especially if you won the race. And yeah, so I traveled with the team. I partied with them. We worked hard, and so yeah, smoking and drinking was all part of that. But I always kind of tried to keep fitness on the side. But I would say those 7 years in motorsport were probably quite decadent and I was young, so I could
Yeah.
get away with it.
Right. Right.
That's the difference. You can get away with a lot when I started at motorsport when I was 17. So by
Okay.
the time I left, I was 25 and I flew to Scotland to come and see my sister.
Huh.
And I moved in with my sis in Scotland and a hubby, and I ended up getting into PR, and and that's kind of where it went. But
Yeah.
running a PR business was great, and I did actually, I'd started running um, to kind of counteract the stress and just kind of shake off the day because it's
Right.
something I did as a younger person. So I always had it. And I think that's why sport's so great because
Yeah.
if you do sport when you're younger, it's always there. You always know you can do it. It's not
Mm.
like you're starting from scratch. So I'm really fortunate that even though I went off track, off piste, I had a lot, I played netball, I
Something to fall back
swam,
on.
I ran, so I had it there and I knew, even though I was rubbish, I remember coming back, starting my running again, and I was like, I am rubbish. I was still kind of smoking. So, you
Right.
know, um, yeah, but I needed to do something. And
Yeah.
in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, to run around the streets of the West End of Glasgow. And actually at the time, it was all women. There was loads of women running those streets, and the Glasgow Women's 10K had just been started, and it
Right.
became the biggest 10K I think in Europe. So, and I remember as every year there was just more women out running. It was brilliant. So it was very inspirational. I joined a running club and I joined a mountaineering club, and
Right.
that got me out and about. And it kind of, and hey, our running club used to say, we are a drinking club with a running problem.
That sounds like the Hash House Harriers motto.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
It wasn't the hash
I
Harriers.
met up with the Hash House Harriers when I lived in Thailand maybe about 12, 13 years ago now, and it was a friend of mine there said that the fastest way to make friends on the island was to join these Hash House Harriers, and he said to me, it's a running club, and I was like, I don't run. Why would I want to join
Fine.
them? And yeah, and he explained to me that they are runners with a drinking problem. And they really, I mean, they really were, but they were amazing. It was incredible. What I find really blew me away was how social it was, and I never expected running to be a social thing. In my head, it was just people, kind of like pounding the pavements and looking very serious and pushing their bodies beyond, all limits. And actually, running is a very social and I think has a very motivational community within it.
Oh, definitely. I started with that running club and doing 10Ks. And by the time I finished with the running club, years later, I'd run my first ultra marathon. They got me through my first half marathon. It was Alloa half marathon. Never
Right.
knew I'd live in this area, but just around the corner. Then I did my first marathon was Fort William. I remember having this a little portable CD player with my earphones, and after 2Ks, it just kept jumping. I gave it to a policeman. I said, "Can I get it at the end?" Um, so funny. I just handed it to. He's like, "Okay." I said, "I'll see you at the end. You know, you're going to be here, aren't you?" By the time I finished, but and then they got me through my first ultra, which was the Speyside Way. And every time I said to them, "I don't know how you do that," and they'd say, "You can do it, Jules." And I go, "Really?" And they go, "Yes." And they say, "Of course you can. We just do the training. You'll do it." And I was like, "Okay." But it's that whole thing, isn't it? People believe in you and you see them doing it and you think it's amazing and you just get supported. It's community and it's great.
It's
um
like a wave, isn't it, that kind of carries you along when you have the right people around you. And I think that's something that's very relevant for us right now with everything that we're going through in
yeah,
the time of COVID. Having your support network, having the right people around you to give you
yeah,
that motivation to show up for your yoga class or just hop on a Zoom call, spending an hour with a cup of tea, just listening to, a couple of people having a conversation, even that in itself can be really uplifting.
Totally.
And you need your people, even if you can't reach out and touch them, there's still ways that we can connect, right?
Definitely, definitely. And we found that, over the last 8 months,
Yeah,
we've got a community online. It's great,
yeah,
and it's better when you see them in person, but online's just, it's good. It's good,
yeah,
you're sharing, it's like-minded people
yeah,
sharing
yeah,
the journey.
yeah,
We're all up and down at different stages of our journeys, and I remember when I moved into the marathon, and there were people joining the club who were like, "Oh, I'm doing my first half marathon," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I was there like last year." So, and you're all at different stages, and it's the same now. We're all just trying to stay healthy, both physically, mentally, and it's good days, bad days.
yeah.
It's good to have somewhere to come back to,
Mhm.
um, and start again.
Yeah, I get it. What was the change for you? You obviously started out your working life in motorsport. You moved into PR. These are pretty hardcore
Yeah.
lifestyles that you were in. Was there a moment when something changed for you, or was it a gradual sort of progression into the lifestyle that you've chosen now?
Yeah, I think certainly when I started working for myself in PR, obviously when you're working for someone else, there's a definite stress, but you're not running the place yourself. And so when I moved into my own business, um, which was called Sundance Communications, because of my surname's Cassidy, so it was kind of like the Sundance
Oh,
connection.
clever.
Yeah. And anyway, I loved it, but the buck stops with you. So I just felt there was never a moment where I could switch off. And that's probably why I did the fitness course, because I had to go to the only place running the course at the time was up past Dundee. So I had to go there like every weekend for like a couple of weeks. And it was like, this is a great app. This is totally different to my life. And then when I started teaching fitness, I did British military fitness outdoors. I started teaching uh, in Glasgow in Kelvin Grove Park. And
Wow.
again, it was like something completely different to what I was doing, because I loved the PR, and I loved dealing with different people and helping them. But it was high stress. And there were times where, a client would come to me and it was crisis management.
Mhm.
If I was on an event, sometimes I wouldn't sit down for 36 hours, because you're running a massive event, 3-day conference with a black tie
Crikey.
dinner, you know, um, and when I was launching restaurants and bars, every night of the week in the lead up, you were doing soft openings,
Yeah.
working all nights, and then the launch, like that would be like a 16-hour day. And what I found was, um, I found that going away for a weekend, walking in the mountains, running, fitness, I found all of these things were a great outlet. And I thought, and it stopped me smoking, because the first time I got told, me and my friend decided to do a mountain marathon. It was called the Kim Mountain Marathon, sponsored by Carrymore.
Mhm.
And it was quite a tough event. You slept out on the mountain, and both of us said, right, we're going to stop smoking. And we'd cut really back because of the running. So we both gave up smoking for this event, and she never smoked again, still doesn't. And I went back to it, but only socially. But I'd say
Mhm.
the real shift came when I actually met Jack,
Ah.
because I was, you could say I was fit into ultramarathon running, socially smoking, still drinking, doing the parties and whatever. There were lots of events and stuff, um, and of course I'd say, well, I don't really smoke. I only smoke when I have a drink. But it's like, well, I'll go and have a drink every night just so I can have a cigarette. But, no, I mean, I was kind of balancing all of these worlds, but the buzz and the kind of wellness I felt from being in the mountains on a weekend or driving up somewhere, a different part of Scotland, and competing in an event like a marathon ultra or a mountain marathon. We even went to Ireland to do a mountain marathon, the Mourne Mountains. I kind of got this amazing buzz, and I thought, this is better than kind of the buzz of booze. And it's better than the buzz of kind of, and you don't get a hangover. You just feel great afterwards. So I was like, okay, there's definitely, and it was so good for mental health as well. So I was kind of like drawn to it. It was always calling me because I was experiencing it, but I was still living this other life. And when I met Jack, he was also had totally changed his career. He'd been in Australia for 10 years, and he had done his fitness qualification. And he said, look, I'm not living in Scotland. I'm just here short term. I'm going back to Australia. And I said, okay, well, I'll come for a visit. And I went to Australia, 6-week holiday, left my business, loved it, came back. And within 2 years, I moved there. And I would say that was the massive catalyst, because we looked at each other and said, what we're going to do, where we're going to live. And we had friends. It was Jack's cousin actually lived outside Sydney, in Avoca Beach, lovely area. And he said, come and stay here. I said, what are we going to do? And I said, well, should we start a fitness business together? And if it doesn't work, I'll go back to PR, you go back to electronics. It's fine, it's all good. Anyway, we started it. We called it Zulu Fitness, because from South Africa originally. And we ran it for 9 years. And it was brilliant. It was a real amazing community. It started small, but you cannot run a fitness business and not be authentic.
Yeah.
And if you've got any integrity and you want to walk the talk, you've got to make the changes yourself. Yeah. And you've got to be able to then guide people, and even though, and Jack and I, during those 9 years, we studied further. We became personal trainers quite quickly. We did our fitness diplomas. We did training and assessment diplomas so that we could then teach fitness instructors in like TRX, aqua fitness, all kinds of things. We became aqua teachers. And we loved it. We loved the community, and I just found I was surrounded then by all these people who loved healthy living. We were outdoors a lot because of the weather, and I was in this business, so I was interested, and I just wanted to be the best version of me, really, because how could I ask people for money? If I've got sitting there with a Starbucks coffee and a fag in the other hand, you know what I mean? And
but the worst of it is that happens in our industry a lot. Mary Jane Richardson is watching this evening, and she has just said eloquent and inspirational. So Jules, what a lovely compliment, right? I see that we have got a few people just joining us. So remember to say hey in the comments, because we like to be able to welcome you and know who's joining us today. My guest is Jules Cassidy, for those of you that don't know, from Heat Fitness, and we're talking about how to make some changes in your life so that you truly love it. This is all about how to feel good, look good, and just move better in your own body. So don't forget, Jules is here to answer any questions that you've got, so make sure that you pop them in the comments too, and we'll get through them all. Now, we've talked a little bit about Jules' journey to where she is now, and I keep saying where she is now. And for some of you watching, you're probably thinking, well, what does that mean? Are we talking about Stirling? I don't mean physically where she is now. Your business covers such a broad spectrum of what I would consider wellness. I love that you're tackling things that are perhaps a little different in their approach. And one of the things that I definitely want to talk about, because it's a real passion of mine as well, is let's talk about getting colds, because in Scotland This is something that we're not always good at embracing. In fact, you said earlier that you started a hot yoga studio to be warm, and yet you are the crazy lady who jumps into cold rivers and takes cold showers. Tell us more about that.
Absolutely. Well, I know, I cannot believe it. Because I mean, I came back and I thought, this is free. How am I going to get through these winters? They're freezing. And the hot yoga studio was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing to be able to do this. And it still is. I still love the heat. I love it. And I love to sweat. And I love moving my body in the heat. And that's all good. But about 2 years ago, uh, just on another note about the cold, I'd actually always intermittently done cold showers, but when I had a hangover. So or when I was in PR, when I had my own business, I remember being at the Edinburgh Festival, and I'd been at an event and I'd had 2 hours sleep and I had to drive back to Glasgow and had client meetings. And I remember getting into a cold shower because I thought it's going to keep me awake. And so I kind of knew it was good for you. You know, it kind of woke you up. It was a jolt to the system. Didn't really know why, but I always used it for those reasons. Anyway, about 2 years ago, I was doing another yoga course, and our lovely teacher, Val, said, right, I've got a challenge for you guys, and I want you to do cold showers every day for a month. And she's just 30 seconds. And I was like, oh, okay. And I thought, well, yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. And she explained to us, you know, how it kind of like stimulates the vagus nerve, and told us a lot more about the vagus nerve, which I kind of knew about. And, you know, basically the vagus nerve, also known as kind of like the vagabond, it's kind of like brain stem cells. It's kind of like our connection to our organs. And in most people, it's kind of sitting and it's a bit sedentary. And the only way to kind of stimulate it, which will boost your immune system, is to chant, sing, fast, cold showers, yoga, breath work, pranayama. So I thought, right, okay, stimulating the vagus nerve seems like a good thing to do. And I started it because it was a challenge, and we had to try it and do it. And after the 30 days, we all chatted about it, and a few of us were like, we're hooked, we're addicted. And then I started telling Jack, and he was like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. No way, you're crazy. But he could see the benefits, and how much I was loving it. I mean, literally, I was coming out the showers feeling energized, feeling more awake, feeling ready to take on the day. And from that, I started doing as well Wim Hof breathing, or Wim Hof breathing. And the Wim Hof philosophy is, there's a couple of pillars, but one of them is cold immersions. The other one is breath work, power breaths. The third one is kind of like willpower, concentration, meditation. And again, I was introduced to Wim Hof breathing 2 years ago on the same yoga course, and it resonated with me. So when I realized that the cold showers and cold immersions and Wim Hof were kind of part of the same package, I thought, this is amazing. Started reading up more about Wim Hof breathing, and got Jack into it as well. And the two of us, that's 2 years now, we've been doing it every single day. So we do the breath work, we do the cold immersions, and it's now like brushing our teeth. It's just become an absolute habit. I actually don't feel right if I've not done it. Now, you don't need to do Wim Hof breathing and cold showers. You could do any form of breath work. But to do cold immersions, I would highly recommend, like in the ocean or the loch, I would highly recommend you do the cold showers. Because what happened was, I did the cold showers for about 6 months, and I stopped adding warm and cold. I just went from 30 seconds cold at the end of a hot shower to, a minute cold, 2 minutes cold. I do a maximum of 3 minutes, and now I don't need the heat. I can just have a cold shower. I never put my head under, ever, because you'll get an ice cream head and it's horrible. So I just do my body. And even when I go into an ice cold loch, I don't put my head under because straight that is going to bring your core temperature down too quickly. So I keep my head out. So I find that's helpful. Obviously, in summer, I put my head under the water. I'm fine. I love getting my face cold. Apparently, it stimulates collagen, so it's all good.
It does. It does. Speaking as a beauty therapist, cold is one of the very best things that you can do if you want to stay as young and beautiful as we are, Jules. Because I think we are a wonderful advert for for the
And
40
Lorna, are
plus.
you doing cold immersion? Are you doing lock? Where
Yeah.
do you go?
Well, I haven't. No, I don't. I haven't done loch swimming here. I've been trying. I think since we spoke, like a year ago, I've been trying to find somewhere to go. And actually, I had the opportunity to go back in September, I think it was, of this year, and I couldn't go to the sort of they had like a sort of beginners night. So I kind of missed my window, but I've found a group of people in West Lothian that do go loch
Brilliant.
swimming. So I'm
That's what we need.
100% getting into this again. But I do take a cold shower every morning.
Brilliant.
I In the winter, I must confess, I do hot shower and then I have
Yeah.
my cold shower at the end. I never miss the opportunity to get my face in that cold
Mm.
water.
Yeah.
And quite often, and I think there's a couple of people that are watching today that have done face yoga and things with me,
Mm.
and I always tell people that they have to use ice cubes on their face
Yeah.
for various things, especially for sort of anti-aging. So there's some really lovely ice cube recipes that I share like in our yoga group and so on. Different kind of recipes for different skins, different times of the year. But getting ice on your face is one of the best ways to minimize wrinkles, boost your collagen, leave your skin really glowy and healthy. It's just, yeah, it's awesome. So you combine that with a cold shower every day, and it's just oh, like
And also it's like when we go, like I went in the loch on Monday. It's just the reservoir actually, and I was in for, at this time of year, I'm in for 4 minutes
yeah,
because I don't wear a wetsuit, so I'm
yep,
in for 4 minutes and love it. But you come out, you feel like you've got a new body. It doesn't last forever, but you do, like
oh,
if
but
you've got
it's
any aches
yeah,
and pains.
yep,
But I think one of the things that really fascinated me about the cold, and again, like you say, winter's a hard time
yep,
to do it, but you know, I do it even more in winter because every time you do it, you're facing a fear, and
yeah,
it's like a mental challenge. And then the rest of the day is easy
mm-hmm.
because you've kind of gone, I can't do it. And then you go in and you're like,
Of course you do.
whoa. And it's fight or flight response. Your body immediately gets this fight or flight, and you're like, oh my gosh. And then it kind of like stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system and brings this calmness afterwards to calm you down
Yeah,
after your big shock to the system.
yeah,
So it's kind of like giving yourself a shot of relaxation, but
yeah. Oh, I like that.
you first got to take the shock to get the shot of
Yes.
relaxation. And the bigger the shock, the better. So winter, it's like, oh, because the water's colder. And it's
Yeah.
like, and you change showers and you go to someone else's house and you think, oh my gosh, this is cold. Um, but the ocean is warmer
Yeah.
than Loch, so that's
Yeah.
easier, I think.
Yeah. Agreed. But
Yeah.
funnily enough, when I've lived abroad for a lot of years, like yourself, in warm places, and my whole life, it was almost like a mantra. Whenever I was back in Scotland, I was just, I was forever sort of, oh, I'm cold, I'm cold. It could be the middle of summer, and I'd still be
Yeah.
sitting under a blanket, wearing everything I own. And when I discovered cold showers, I mean, like, how did I not know about this? But it was a few years back when I sort of got into it a little bit more. Um, Very quickly I realized that every time I had these cold showers, you know that feeling, if anybody who's watching, like shout out in the comments because I know you know what I'm talking about. When you switch off the shower and you immediately have to grab the towel because you're like, oh my God, I'm so cold when you come out
Yeah.
that hot shower. We don't get that when you've been standing under a cold one because actually the ambient temperature is warmer than what you've been standing under. So you just kind of get out the shower and you're like, whoa, yeah, let's take on the day. And what I realized was my heating was turned down in the house. I wasn't
Yeah.
constantly sort of within an arm's reach of a blanket.
Exactly.
If I sat
Exactly.
still for 5 minutes, it's like my whole system was just
Changes.
it was balanced. It was adapting to its surroundings. It made such a difference to do
Do you know,
that.
Lorna, that's exactly right, because I always say winter, it changed from enduring winter to enjoying it. I love the cold now and I embrace it, and it's a complete mind shift. And it's completely, I'm like, I love the cold now. Like, I embrace it because I don't go out there thinking, oh, I'm actually like, I find it quite zingy and quite good. And I know I'm not
Bracing.
going to die
Yeah, yeah. I
because
I
I jumped into cold
absolutely
water in the
love
middle of
that.
winter. I'm not going to die from walking outside in a lovely jacket.
No, exactly. Embrace it, don't endure it. I absolutely love that. Rachel has Rachel I know has done face yoga with me. She's laughing. She's saying
I'd
she
love
keeps
to
she
try
keeps
that.
her freezer ice cubes to hand. She's still using them. And Mary Jane has just said, "Wow, you both look wonderful. What a revelation! Thank you so much, Mary Jane." Oh, and Rachel also says she never has the heating on in the morning. Good girl.
Like it.
Yeah, no, I think get you into a cold shower, you may never use your heating again.
Yes. Yes. Well, no, I'm not sure. You see, when I can't have a cold shower is at night. So when I shower at night, I have a
Ah,
warm shower, not hot anymore like I used to, but I have a warm shower because I just feel that I can't do it at night before bed. But in saying that, I haven't hit menopause yet, but if I do, or well, if I do, when I do,
when
it's apparently just a 15-second cold shower at night can make all the
balances.
difference with the hot
Ah,
flushes.
okay. Oh, well, anybody who is heading into menopause, which I know I am definitely on that journey right now,
Yeah, and
I will bear that in mind.
again, it's also like I found like the breath work, the cold immersions, especially during lockdown.
Mhm.
I mean, Jack and I were stomping up to the reservoir, like 4 times a week from the 20th of March. And
Right.
I remember like in April and May, people were going, because, the weather was great. But I mean, the reservoir was probably about 9, 10 degrees.
Yeah.
And people would go, and we were like, swimming about by the stage. And they were like, oh my gosh, is it warm? And I'd go, no. But we're making it
No.
look warm. But I'm like, no, it's not warm. Don't be fooled.
Yeah.
Don't just dive in,
Don't be fooled by
But
my casual approach to this freezing cold water.
yes, yes. But it was just again, it was like a little bit of self-care for us. I know it sounds bizarre,
No.
but it felt like we just done this amazing little thing in the middle of the day, and then it's like right back into it. And it was a little bit of self-care, and you know what it's like. And doing the breath work as well is a bit of self-care. It
Yeah.
alkalines your body, leaves you feeling amazing. And it was anything you can do for yourself. It doesn't have to be cold immersions, although I think the fact that it's now so popular and
Mm.
it's become such a big thing, it's resonating with a lot of people. And especially people with, at the moment, who've got, I was talking about it earlier, the low energy state.
Yeah.
It's, who wants, and that's where a lot of people are right now, that their energy state is on this low level. And, to really kind of like get you out of that low energy state, you need to do something, be it yoga, breath work, fitness, out, just being outside in nature. But for us, the cold stuff, and we are like um, animals. We adapt like this. We acclimatize so easily. I mean, I do remember hearing about rabbits that had got caught in a freezer section of a restaurant. Sorry, rats, not rabbits. Anyway, what were rabbits doing there? But the rats got caught in there, and they kind of lived in this freezer, like cold room. And they found them like months later. Obviously, didn't check they hid very well or whatever, and they looked like rabbits because they'd grown fur. So they'd actually grown the fur to protect, they'd acclimatized to the cold room. Now, we as mammals, we're exactly the same as animals. We can acclimatize quickly to anything, to extreme heat, to extreme cold, to stress, we can just acclimatize, and we don't even know what we're capable of. And that is the great thing about trying different things, because then you really get to test yourself. And, there's a whole new thought pattern at the moment, which I'm looking more into. It's called like One Nature. And it's really saying that we've come so far removed from ourselves, from other things. It's like we're here as humans, the animals are there, the viruses are there, the bacteria is over here, and nature's over there. Okay. And we just need to, whereas actually we are 40%, our DNA, 40% is human. The other 60% is the same as that rat, as that rabbit, as that owl, as that squirrel. Our DNA is the same. We're like a tree. We need oxygen, CO2. Trees help each other. They grow their roots stronger for trees that are suffering. We're all and they also get disease like us. So, and viruses jump between humans and animals, and we're full of bacteria. On my eyelashes right now, I've probably got 11 different types of bacteria. So we're not one, we're not kind of like shutting our houses and going, right, we're just the humans and you lot are out there. The more you can get into nature and be more with nature, and that's what I feel when I go into like lochs and kind of like rivers and into the ocean, and I feel at one with nature. Really, I feel more kind of like a bit wilder.
It's a really interesting point that you've raised there, and I am going to go just off track just a tiny bit. we're in this lockdown thing right now. We're obviously, we are living through a global pandemic, and
Yes,
so much of what we've all been, well, what we're supposed to be living for is the savior of this vaccine. And I don't know how you sit with this, but in my opinion, there's been so much attention, money, effort, focus put onto this thing that's being created that is apparently going to make everyone, immune or whatever. And so little focus has been put on, why don't we eat better? Why don't we get out more? Like you said, connect with
strengthen
nature,
ourselves.
strengthen our immune systems,
Yeah,
but also strengthen our mental resilience.
yeah,
Understand how our lifestyle, the stress, the anxiety that we're constantly under is having an effect on this. So everything has been kind of focused and placed on this magical vaccine that's going to make everyone's going to be super healthy after they have that. But how about we put the emphasis on the things that we can do now and maybe put some time and attention? So there's an element of frustration for me,
yeah.
as someone who kind of I guess chooses to live that I don't know, do you want to call it a healthier lifestyle or whatever? That come on guys, like let's not hang out for this vaccine, because God only knows what that's gonna bring with it. How
Yes.
about you make the time? How about you go jump in a loch? You take a cold shower. You stop eating McDonald's. Sorry, McDonald's. Any takeaway food. I'm not just picking on McDonald's. Right?
Yeah, there's one opening
Agree?
up on the corner. So there'll be 3 in Stirling now. So there's an appetite for it, certainly. And
There is.
I totally get what you're saying, Lorna, and how I suppose my own personal thoughts on this are, I'm happy that the vaccine is here for anyone who is suffering from a long-term illness, where they can't see everybody, they can't get out and about. And I want that vaccine for all of those people who are suffering from, cancer, um, any respiratory issue, where it's going to protect them.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. But if you have an underlying issue that can be reversed through changing your lifestyle, I feel that's going to be more, concentrate on that rather than the vaccine. Don't don't put all your kind of, what word am I looking for? Don't
Eggs
put
in one basket.
faith
Mm-hmm.
into a drug, because again, it's kind of like, um, you're trusting, you're putting all your faith into that. Put faith into yourself. And they have already given what the underlying issues are, who can be affected. So if you are overweight, if you've got type 2 diabetes, these are all issues that people struggle with. And it's not easy to just go, okay, we better just change it, because if it was, everyone would be doing it. But yes, the vaccine is one way of protecting yourself, but another way is actually, making those changes for yourself, because otherwise you're always going to have that fear in the back of your mind that you are at risk. I'm sure we're all at risk at some. I might have an underlying issue I don't even know about, you know. But I feel that all I can do is try and be as healthy as possible, because I do want to get out and about as soon as possible when we're allowed to do that. And I'm going to be interfacing with the general public when we get out of this in a big way.
Yeah.
And I've got to be as strong as possible for that. But yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think if you can do something about it, I'm not saying it's easy, but if you can do something about it, there are people out there that can help you. And this year I run a 30-day lifestyle challenge, and it's nutrition, sleep, movement, breath work, cold showers. We do everything. We look at your cupboards, we look at your food, we look at your shopping, we look at your meals, your recipes, we look at everything, alcohol, hydration, everything. And you've got 30 days to go on the journey with me. And I usually run 2 a year, January and August, because these are the times in the year where people probably need it the most, post Christmas, post summer holidays. And in fitness, there's landmarks. These are always times when gyms are busier and people are embarking on unhealthy things. Well, I've just finished my 4th one this year, and they've been the busiest in all the years. I've run them for 10 years, and they're the busiest because people are looking for guidance right now for, living a healthier life. What can they do? And when you see changes to your body, your mind, your mood, so on a cellular level, you're getting healthier.
Yeah.
You can feel it.
I was going to ask actually about, and I think you probably answered the question. The 30-day challenge is a great place to start, because in my mind, when you answered my last question, if you can do something about those underlying conditions, then you should go and do it. But when I think many people are in this, as you say, very low energy state, exhausted state, where, yeah, I know if I eat this, marshmallow, I'm going to feel a bit crap, but it's actually just easier to do that than anything else. How do we find that motivation? And I think you just answered that question for me. Get on the 30-day challenge with Jules.
Yes. All I can say is, if right now, okay, you are hanging for every weekend using stimulants like alcohol, sugar, even your iPhone, social media, to kind of like caffeine to prop you up every hour on the hour, and you're hanging for those moments, those weekends, then you probably are in need of a little bit of a cleanup. And maybe that's where the 30-day challenge comes in. We just examine everything and try and not use those stimulants to prop us up. Try and, we've got this energy within us because we've eaten all the food and we've got all the energy. It's waiting to be used.
Yeah.
But we've got energy in us. Every time the oxygen coming in, it's bringing energy into the body. Food brings energy into the body. So we just need to release it. And you see, just even, instead of going for that cup of coffee or that chocolate biscuit, just sitting for 1 minute and slowing your breath down to 6 breaths. So inhaling for 5 and exhaling for 5. If you do that, that's 6 breaths in 1 minute. Now, most people breathe between 12 and 20 breaths, and you can time it yourself. So you could just naturally sit and time yourself for a minute and see how fast you breathe. So the ancient yogis would probably breathe between 6 and 8. And that is you in a really rested state, like almost at sleep, but you're wide awake. And it's a way of taking away that kind of like adrenaline, emotion, and stress, which makes you reach for these things, and just brings you into that state. It's also distraction.
Yeah.
So it's little things like we do that on the challenge, but we just to try and kind of get you off all the external stuff and start using food as medicine, your breath as medicine, and movement as well, and just so you can sleep better. Because if you don't sleep better, if you don't sleep well, you just can't function well during the day. I was also saying a lot of people right now they spend the whole day, feeling half asleep and the night feeling half awake.
Yeah, this is kind of messed up. Mary Jane's just asked, does breath work help with recovery from illness?
Yeah, absolutely, because it really does kind of alkaline your body, especially certain breath work, so like the Wim Hof breathing. But if you want to boost your immune system, you want to come out of your sympathetic nervous system, which is where you kind of like that frenetic nervous system, that kind of like you're on the edge, you're using adrenaline and stress, which we're probably on it for too long. We're kind of on it for like 14 hours a day instead of like just bits and pieces. We need it. So the breath work brings you into your parasympathetic nervous system, and that's where your body can repair, digest, recover, and find some rest. So if you're suffering from any illnesses, yes, and Wim Hof breathing is definitely one that I would recommend for repairing your body. Because again, my husband's just had hip surgery, had his whole hip replaced, a new hip, and 4 weeks past surgery, he's done that breathing twice a day for 30 minutes, and he feels amazing. He's walking unaided, driving, he's quite amazed. And even his wound looks like it's knitted, it's healed. He's 4 weeks, so he's doing great, and it looks great. And he puts a lot of that down to the breath work.
Yeah, and people can find that out if they don't. When is your next challenge, Jules?
Starts the 11th of January.
Okay. And people can sign up for it now, or
online. It's online. It's on the website. So it's on the Heat Fitness website, and you literally go to workshops, and you'll just see it there. Just click on workshops, and it's there.
I will make sure that there is a link goes in the description, so if anybody's looking for it, it'll be a nice, easy click so that you can join Jules there. Would you believe that it is time to wrap up?
I know. I mean, terrible. Hey, gosh. I mean, you said for an hour, and I was thinking, oh, don't get me started.
You're coming back, Jules. We're doing this again, only for longer, 100%. Absolute joy as always to just to speak to people who share so openly and who just come with so much knowledge. I always find, I know that some of you that have been watching tonight, this might be the first time that you've watched Women Talking Wellness, and I know that quite a few of you, this is definitely not your first big driving job. But it always leaves me feeling so absolutely buzzed at the end of these chats. These conversations, they inspire me, they motivate me. They generally leave me feeling so utterly blessed that I know so many incredibly powerful and generous souls in the world who are willing to share their time and their knowledge. And tonight's conversation has certainly been no different. Who is having a cold shower today? Stick the little cold man emoji in the comments if you are having a cold shower. I think I'm definitely going to have one before I go to bed tonight.
Good.
I want to say a massive thank you to Jules for sharing her story, for her knowledge. The knowledge bombs that she has dropped on us tonight have been awesome. They've been some really good ones. And if you are itching for more of Jules, you can connect with her via the website. And yes, I will make sure that there's a link in the description so you can check out all the cool stuff that she's doing right now. Next week, I've got a really special guest joining us, and she's coming all the way from the paradise island of Hawaii. She's getting up especially early to talk to us. So it's 7:30 in the evening for us, but I think it's like 8 in the morning for her. So do make sure that you tune in. Don't miss out on this conversation. We're going to be discussing mental health, how to laugh a little more in times that are challenging. And she's also going to be shedding light on the ancient Hawaiian healing technique of Ho'oponopono. I can't believe that I've said quintessential and Ho'oponopono in tonight's chat. I think I deserve credit just for those two words. Anyway, next week is not to be missed. Thank you, my friends, for joining us. Massive thank you again to Jules for agreeing to be part of this. And from my living room to yours, I wish you all a very good night.